Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're diving into a truly visionary framework that takes something we all know, that inevitable, sometimes dreadful road trip pit stop, and transforms it into a massive national, civic, and ecological network. I mean, think about the last time you drove on a major highway. The places you pulled over were probably just highly functional, maybe a little bleak, right? Well, this framework, known as the Highway Rest Park, or HRP for short, completely flips that script. We're looking at a blueprint that turns basic pit stops into standardized 1-hectare green public spaces.
To map out this explainer, we're going to start small with a single plot of land and zoom all the way out to a nationwide grid. We'll be hitting 5 key areas: rethinking the rest stop, anatomy of an HRP, the triple benefit, the economics of green space, and finally, a national green grid.
All right, Section 1, rethinking the rest stop, moving beyond the basic bathroom break.
So when you're driving for hours on end, what usually dictates where you stop? Is it a desperate need for fuel, a quick bathroom break? And honestly, what do you actually expect to find when you get there? Usually it's just a toilet and maybe a convenience store. The driving force behind most of our current highway stops is purely transactional. You get in, you get out. It's totally isolated from the surrounding environment. But we're talking about a massive pivot here. We are moving entirely away from those typical rest stops, those isolated little utility points, and moving toward the HRP framework. These are standardized, repeatable, high-frequency public assets. It is a fundamental shift from a single-use, profit-driven pull-off to a multi-purpose micro-infrastructure unit. Section 2, Anatomy of an HRP. Let's look at building that 1-hectare unit. How do you actually build one of these units from the ground up? Well, every single HRP is meticulously built upon 4 distinct design layers. You've got the mobility and rest layer, the sanitation layer, the green layer, and the utility layer. It's this exact combination of sanitation, rest, green cover, and community utility packed into a single 1-hectare space that makes the framework so incredibly robust. Let's break these layers down. The foundation is the mobility and rest layer. Because let's face it, you can't have a successful highway stop if it just causes traffic jams. So this layer guarantees clearly marked entry and exit lanes for zero traffic disruption. It includes parking for literally all vehicle types: cars, buses, trucks, you name it. But it's not just a giant slab of hot asphalt. This layer specifically integrates shaded seating zones and uses solar-powered night lighting, so you get immediate, safe relief from the road. Building right on top of that base, we have the crucial sanitation layer. This guarantees a 24/7 toilet complex that is fully accessible for men, women, and people with disabilities. But even more importantly, the framework dictates a continuous water supply and maintenance system. It even proposes modern digital hygiene monitoring, so we're talking about keeping standards exceptionally high around the clock. Next up is the green layer, and honestly, this is where the framework really separates itself from anything we're used to. This layer mandates dense native tree plantations, utilizing what the source material calls a shade-first design. It also includes open lawns for passive recreation. By doing this, the park actually creates its own localized heat reduction microclimate. You aren't stepping out of your air-conditioned car onto baking concrete. You're stepping into a cooling, green oasis. Finally, the utility layer caps off the whole design. This provides essential drinking water stations and a proper organized waste segregation and disposal system. Plus, there's built-in room for modern amenities like optional kiosks, EV charging stations, and first aid points. Every single 1-hectare HRP features this exact 4-layer anatomy. Which brings us to Section 3, the triple benefit. Who actually wins here? First up, the highway users. For those of us actually driving, having a predictable, high-quality stop every few minutes heavily reduces driver fatigue. It vastly improves safety and practically eliminates the need for those dangerous, sketchy roadside halts we've all had to make at some point. Second, and I think this is truly innovative, it benefits the local communities. These aren't just walled-off, exclusive highway zones. The communities living nearby gain real access to beautifully maintained public park infrastructure. It provides social and recreational spaces in areas that are very often underserved. Plus, it generates local employment through the maintenance and services required to keep the place running. And third, on a much broader scale, these parks benefit the nation. By lining highways with these 1-hectare spaces, we're suddenly creating a continuous green corridor. These parks act as distributed ecological lungs and carbon sinks across the country, actively improving environmental resilience right alongside major transport networks.
Section 4. The economics of green space. How are we funding this network? You are absolutely probably wondering, how do we pay for all this perfectly maintained infrastructure? Well, the economic logic is pretty brilliant. There are very real upfront costs involved: acquiring the land if it's outside the right-of-way, the initial construction, the landscaping, and of course, the ongoing maintenance like cleaning, water, and security. But those costs are designed to be offset by built-in revenue streams. We're talking kiosk leasing, tightly controlled advertising panels, and EV charging fees.
The framing here is absolutely crucial, though. This entire framework, which would be managed by a dedicated vertical within the National Highways Authority of India, or NHAI, is not a profit-first enterprise. The goal is not to maximize revenue for shareholders. Rather, it's viewed as essential public infrastructure with partial cost recovery. The revenue generated simply helps sustain the high quality of the civic asset over time.
Okay, Section 5, a national green grid, scaling the micro infrastructure.
5 kilometers. What is the foundational rule of this entire network? It's simple, but it is incredibly powerful. There is one fully equipped highway rest park placed every 5 kilometers. For a highway driver, that's just a matter of minutes between stops.
When you scale that 5-kilometer rule up to just 50 kilometers of highway, you suddenly have this amazing dense cluster effect. Think about it. Within just an hour of driving, you would pass 10 distinct interconnected green parks. Now multiply that dense cluster effect across thousands of kilometers of national highways, and a massive network effect takes hold. We're transforming basic, often boring, linear infrastructure into a massive distributed civic ecosystem. It literally creates a national green grid stretching across the entire country, completely uniting transportation, ecology, and community spaces. The core strategic insight from our source material is perfectly captured right here in this equation. Frequency plus uniformity plus multifunctionality equals scale. It is exactly this combination, standardized parks placed at a high frequency, serving multiple community and ecological needs at once, that makes this localized 1-hectare idea capable of scaling nationally and totally changing the face of a country's infrastructure.
To wrap up this explainer, I want to leave you with the exact one-line definition from the framework itself. Highway rest park equals 1 hectare of sanitation, shade, and civic space at fixed intervals across highways. It's such a beautifully simple concept, isn't it? One that completely redefines the future of our roadways, making them safer, greener, and much more community-focused for everyone. So I'll leave you with this thought. The next time you're driving on a long, barren stretch of highway, ask yourself, what if every 5 kilometers you had a lush green oasis waiting for you? How would that change the way we travel, and more importantly, the way we connect with the land right outside our windows?